The 2025 or 6th generation Subaru Forester. In this video, we'll be walking you through some of the engineering changes in the shop, giving you an overview of the interior and exterior, and lastly, going to go take this for a quick drive. Now, before we talk about the interior and the exterior styling, let's talk about price. The base price of the Subaru Forester with destination is just north of $30,000. Well equipped, you're looking at the mid-30s, and fully loaded, this thing just pushes past $40,000. The vehicle that we're in with a couple options is the Sport trim. It comes in at about $37,500. Now, what do you need to know? Well, for this generation Forester, they tried to focus on not screwing up the car while improving its overall refinement. Things like changing the power band of the 2.5-liter four-cylinder, make it the torque come in a little earlier to make this feel less labored around town. More NVH material in the interior to make this feel more refined and have better ride quality and less road noise. And of course, trying to improve some of the core tenets of why people buy Foresters. Things like a good safety suite, good body structure, and all-wheel drive capability. When it comes to the trunk space of this vehicle, they've widened out the mouth. The load floor is still very low. With the rear seats up, you're looking at just around 30 cubic feet of cargo capacity. With the rear seats down, it's around 70. While it is smaller than something like a RAV4, it's still a very usable car. And when it comes to the second row occupant space, a full-size adult should fit in there with no issues. The first row, there's lots of headroom. However, despite the revised seat design, these are not the most comfortable seats by any means. They're awfully short if you have longer legs, and they do not breathe well at all. If you are a sweaty teddy like myself, you are going to absolutely sous vide yourselves in these seats. There are no perforations. However, if you are like Mark and you suffer from some leakage, they should be fairly easy to clean off, and I'm sure that's the compromise they're going for. When it comes to visibility, great visibility, lots of glass in this car. All of the controls are mostly physical and easy to use. Good storage in the doors, center console area. This is a very usable car. Infotainment, you have two different screen options. A split screen in the base model, which I haven't seen, or Subaru's sort of corporate giant touchscreen. While your HVAC controls, at least the temperature controls, are physical, the fan controls are not, and of course, the audio controls still are. It's a mixed bag. It is far better than the screen was when it first introduced, but it's still not perfect. You do have Android Auto and, of course, Apple CarPlay. This has the optional Harman Kardon sound system, which is pretty much average at this point. I would probably go with it, however, because I can't imagine how bad the base audio system is. Other than that, interior space is more refined. It's quieter than the last one, and it really is a pleasant place to be. Styling is subjective. It looks more SUV-y than wagon-y, if that's something you want to say. But with that said, let's head in the shop and put this thing up on the lift. In the shop with the 6th generation Subaru Forester. This is the 2025 model, also known as the SL generation. Much like you are coming to expect from this brand, this generation Forester is more about iterative design improvements that improve your quality of life versus grand changes that totally change what the vehicle is. So what did they change? This is on the latest iteration of the Subaru Global platform, which means it uses more high-strength steel and far more body adhesives. You're looking at 3x the body adhesives, which means it's 10% more rigid. There's less NVH that makes its way into the cabin, and this is supposed to handle a little bit more directly. They made some packaging changes to the rear suspension area to, again, further improve the cargo area of this vehicle, and there's far more sound-deadening material in the vehicle in places like the floor, the doors, the footwells. This is just a more refined vehicle than it used to be. It's still a strut front, multi-link rear. However, they have changed the steering rack. This uses the dual pinion steering rack found in the WRX. It's supposed to be a little bit more direct and interact better with their safety suite. I talked about in the interior segment of this vehicle, but again, their customers prioritize safety as one of the most important things according to Subaru customers. This vehicle is also not supposed to be disposable. The typical Forester owner owns this for 9 years, and they have a very, very high likelihood of buying another Forester. We're underneath the Sport trim. That means it gets some exterior changes and the Stable X dampers. You get a damper change along with some other tuning changes. The damper change does not turn this into a sporty vehicle. It just further increases body control. You're going to see in the drive, this is more about plushness than body control. While it doesn't wander, and it's definitely on the softer side, you are not going to be hustling this thing through a canyon. The engine, this is still the 2.5-liter love or hate from Subaru, and much like the body structure, it's about iterative improvements. They've made some NVH improvements, they've made some reliability improvements. It makes 180 horsepower, a little less than 180 foot-pounds of torque. On the highway, you get low to mid-30s for miles per gallon. In the city, you get high 20s. Overall, you're looking at just around 30 miles per gallon. It's not a quick vehicle, and it is paired to a CVT or Xtronic transmission. You have a lot of ground clearance at just under 9 inches. I think it's about 8.7. So if you do plan on camping and going off-road with this vehicle, it's perfect. You're not going to be doing extreme off-roading, but it's a very capable family SUV, CUV thing. And everything is very easy to get at. So you can do your own service, and things like swapping out struts and control arms is pretty simple in a car like this. So let's go take this for a quick drive with Mark. We're back together, Mark.
Take me to the woods.
All right. Xtronic. 180-ish horsepower, some fake shifts.
Now the interesting part about when you launch this is if you actually launch from a dead stop, like you didn't do, you had a roll.
Yeah.
So if you do it from a dead stop and hold your foot to the floor, it will
feel like braking performance. Let's try that again, Mark.
I just want to hear it hold maximum RPM. So you get the best of both worlds. Do you want to have a CVT that shifts fakely, or do you want it to hold maximum RPM? Is up to you on how you launch it. I would go straight here so we can really explore this
so
car.
we can experience that launch one more time?
Yeah, I need to keep feeling it.
All right, I'll make sure I'm in sport sharp.
Okay, nobody's driving it like that. Nobody cares about that. The whole point of this is they've tried to smooth out the CVT performance to make it feel more natural. You're never putting your foot down.
In fact, they never call it a CVT.
Yeah, all the marketing stuff.
Xtronic, continuously variable transmission.
They're trying to desperately avoid that association, but here's the thing. The only reason we're pushing our foot down like this...
Because I want to feel what 180 horsepower does.
It does need to be egged on quite a bit on the highway to get this thing going. It doesn't really make its peak power until it gets wound up. So if you need to get out on a rural area highway, you're going to be pushing it, for sure.
Yeah, 80.
I mean, it's just adequate, right?
Yes.
And you're going to be, when you're driving it like a slowpoke and just driving it conservatively, it never does that. It's a pretty smooth experience overall. And the way that that's combined with its ride quality, Jack, tell me a little bit about it.
So they've improved the body structures I've talked about in the shop segment already. This thing is incredibly cush by design. That's why you're buying this thing. You're buying this vehicle because it's got all-wheel drive as standard. It's going to be safe. It's probably going to be pretty reliable.
And how's she handle around a roundabout?
Well, I mean, let's see.
Oh, my tea! They just dial a hand to understeer it just to be safe.
Well, it's so not known for its dynamic handling characteristics.
Like I said, I want you to take me to the woods. So these tires are designed to get to the beach, to get to the woods. They're not designed to be driven like an absolute asshole. So the benefit of tires and the calibration of the suspension is it's really comfortable all the time.
This is the Sport, which has been recalibrated for sporty driving. I would love to experience the base model.
I guess there's a huge difference between what you consider sport, but if you're having, it looks sporty on the outside. I think, I know you talked about it a little bit on the interior. It's a combination of the new body style,
yes.
And it doesn't look as stodgy as it used to, and I do think it does a better job of being more cohesive of what it's trying to be. People love this thing.
Yes, they do.
And one of the things I really like about it is truly a very low fatigue, all season, every
utility vehicle.
Yeah, it's completely functional in every condition, and it rides great.
Yes.
It loses some on handling. It's not the quickest thing, but you really, as your daily commute, you don't care about
tremendous
that
visibility.
Yes,
tremendous visibility.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
Eyesight, their safety suite, while it is hyperactive,
it's been improved.
It's
changing
improved
the camera.
Yes, it's better than it used to be. The actual quietness of this vehicle for the class of car, acknowledging the fact that you can get on one of these things for the 30s. This thing starts in the mid 30s as a Sport, fully loaded with the premium audio system, and some of the other tidbits is like 37 and change with Destination. This is a very refined car for the price point. I think, you know, if you got into it, yes, it's not the best handling vehicle in the world, but if you're just going straight, you need to go through broken pavement like we're going through right now, I think you'd be really happy with it. Even the stop start, which used to be a really big problem in these cars, well, it's still not amazing.
It's not super refined, but I think
it's not terrible.
The main argument for this is it's a naturally aspirated engine. It's got the price point. It goes really well off-road. The all-wheel drive system is incredibly capable for
what
this
it is.
thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it does so many things for the price. Like, people are tired, you know, like we hear this, I don't want a hybrid, I don't want some like high-performance car, what's the best value? And this is one of the best values. We just got out of the Civic Hybrid, right?
Yes.
That's kind of like the sedan version of this in a different way. This meets all the utility versions
as a small or medium-sized SUV, this does everything very, very well. It feels a lot like all of the other modern Subarus on their updated architecture. It's more refined than it used to be. The steering is not great, but it is very direct. All the inputs are easy to use. And if you don't drive this thing like a monkey, you won't really notice the fact that it has a CVT. You won't notice the fact that it doesn't have the best body control in corners, but it's comfortable. It gets some level of fuel economy. It's not terrible. And it's just a very pleasant vehicle to be in and out of. If you don't care about some of the enthusiast stuff and you just want to do everything CUV, SUV, this thing's great.
It's got good character. You know, I think I was thinking about the negative stuff. It feels somewhat plasticky.
Yes.
It definitely feels, it's kind of boring. It is a boring car, but to be fair, everything in this class is boring. So I think its character comes from the fact that the boxiness, the visibility, like the fact that it's not trying to be everything else, and the price point. I can't reiterate it enough. It does so much for the money that I think people are going to be really happy with this Jag.
All right, so with that, let's hit on the final thoughts, sir.
Sounds good.
Final thoughts on the 2025 Subaru Forester, or 6th generation / SL generation Forester. First off, huge thanks to our title sponsor, Bridgestone Tire. Without their help, we wouldn't be able to make videos like this. They provide us both fiscal and technical support. And if you're looking for tires for your own vehicle, like the Subaru Forester, we highly suggest you look at their catalog. This thing was on Turanzas. We, of course, have used the Alenza and Alenza Ultra quite a bit in these videos. So with that, let's talk about the car. The Forester is a very good vehicle if you're willing to live with what its intended purpose is, and that is to be a transportation box that allows you to go off-road, drive through snow, has a lot of space in the interior, and is a very low NVH vehicle. This is more about refinement than anything else. Its cons are dynamically, it is not the most engaging vehicle, and we have some problems with the interior, namely the seats, at least at this sport trim level, don't breathe at all. And the infotainment, despite its many improvements over the years, is still not great. I do not love the giant touchscreen. But I will say, if you do end up buying one of these vehicles and you can live with, again, those specific cons, it's a very, very good do-everything SUV. So with that, thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon.